This is the Palin Update on SaraNet Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
I think Governor Romney, though, now being on the campaign trail for 5 years, he's loaded for bear. He's ready for what's coming when the media starts trying to warp his record and his reputation.
The Republican National Convention has come and gone, and Mitt Romney is now officially the GOP nominee for president. Today, we're joined by someone who backed Governor Romney very early in the process, former U.S. Senate candidate in Delaware, and someone who's had her share of attacks from the left, the establishment, and the media. But through it all, she's kept her sense of humor, purpose, and drive. And now, she's trying to court the youth vote. Christine O'Donnell is our special guest. Two Sarah Palin-backed candidates notch huge wins in Arizona. Governor Palin promotes Mia Love. And we get the Palin take on the GOP convention. Sarah Palin, known for going rogue, today the woman who wrote Troublemaker is here. Christine O'Donnell, welcome to the Palin Update on SaraNet Radio.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you are fresh off of a trip to the Republican National Convention, but your visit was a bit more unique and a lot busier than most. Tell us what you were doing while down in Florida.
Well, we were having what's called the Troublemaker Fest. We had a film festival with a lot of great films, such as Obama 2016 and one called Dreams from My Real Father. Really powerful films that just open the eyes of so many people and talk about what this election is really all about. And we had a great time. People were very inspired about what we were doing. And I'm just so excited at the success of the event.
And I know you were able to do some things in a different fashion, too. You had a comedy night. You had some different views able to be voiced and in a civil way. So I think all hands on deck there and doing it the way people should, I guess.
That's exactly what our point was. We had a lot of different events that would attract young people. And the purpose of this was to engage that young independent voter. A lot of polls are showing that overwhelmingly, as you know, about 18% of the electorate in 2008 was the 18 to 29-year-old young voter. About 80% of them voted for Barack Obama in 2008. Of those 80%, right now, they're still undecided because they're recognizing that unemployment among college graduates and among students is in the double digits. They're graduating and having to move back with their parents because the job opportunities aren't there because, you know, they're competing for entry-level jobs with former executives who were victims of downsizing. And we put together this festival with the intention of engaging these young, apathetic voters who, you know, voted in droves for Obama, but now are saying that they're not even going to come out. We're trying to re-engage them and show them what's at stake. And the very same voting bloc that has the power to decide this election is also the same voting bloc that has the most at stake. So we really need to do everything we can to engage and then energize that bloc. And that's what I'm doing with Christine Pack.
So you think it's realistic that we could get a chunk of kids who were, say, 18, 19 and actually pulled the lever for Obama, 22, 23 now, might go out there and vote for Governor Romney?
What we need to do is shave off enough of that edge, enough of that advantage with that youth voter that will give the Republicans a level playing field with the other voting bloc. And I'll tell you, as I've traveled across college campuses, talking and giving lectures, even on the liberal college campuses, I have found that students who came out to heckle me or to, you know, just give me a hard time end up agreeing with me because I love to speak on college campuses. As a former liberal college student, you know, that's when I had my enlightenment. So, you know, my whole goal is to reach people like me So you really think you know everything, and then you realize, wow, I don't really.
Yeah, that whole common sense thing sometimes makes common sense.
Right, right. So when I go and I speak on college campuses, I try to make sure that there's plenty of time afterwards to talk to the people and answer their questions and really engage them about why they believe what they do believe. And then you find out, after a dialogue, we have the same common goals, and then we point out how systematically Barack Obama is destroying those goals for America, from letting our debt get so out of control that it impacts our gas prices because, OPEC set the oil prices based on the strength of the dollar, and when the dollar is weak, oil prices are higher, which means gas prices are higher, and this whole thing is cyclical, because then that also makes an argument for why our debt is also a threat to our national security. And then, the young people, the light bulb goes off. So I truly believe that by engaging them with their medium, with pop culture, we can at least shave off enough of the edge to make a difference.
Yeah, that's a great point. Governor Palin hit on that a while back, too, saying, we need to be involved in pop culture, not like so many conservatives for so long have shunned it instead. But, you've been backing Governor Romney for some time, so I know you're excited about his nomination. Why is he the guy, in your opinion? We know why Obama's not the guy. Why is Romney the guy, in your opinion, to be able to clean up the mess in D.C. if elected?
Yeah. Well, I endorsed Governor Romney way back in, either late November, early December, when I heard a lot of people criticizing him, and I felt that the criticism was not just, and it was for a couple reasons. Number one, what I saw by the way that he governed in Massachusetts was a lot of character and a lot of strength. He vetoed several hundred pieces of legislation that he disagreed with. Now, those vetoes got overturned. He had an 85% liberal Democratic legislature. But still, knowing that 85% of his legislature disagreed with him, he still wanted to go on record opposing such things, and not easy issues. And so I think that reveals a lot. And especially with the issue of abortion, he talked about how he thought that he was pro-choice until he really began to reflect on a piece of legislation that his signature would have allowed for the creation and then destruction of human embryos. And to me, this reveals a man with genuine character. Now, we might not like every box that he checks in terms of the issues, but I've asked myself, would I rather vote for somebody who has a 100% checklist on the issues I care about most, but I know has a corrupt or weak character? Or would I want someone in there that has a good character, that always does what they believe is right, even when no one's looking, but I don't always agree with them? And I came to the conclusion that the culture of corruption is so bad that I would rather have someone that through a grassroots movement, through the voice of we the people, we can educate about these issues and we can influence on these issues. I'd rather have somebody like that who was open to hearing what I believe are the right side of certain issues than someone who, fit every single checklist but fed that culture of corruption that is genuinely plaguing Washington, D.C. And not only that, so it's not only his character. He has the executive experience both in the government and in the private sector with multi-million-dollar budgets. He's got the executive experience to govern over a situation like this that our country is in. And I truly believe that he can turn things around. And I think that we're heading into is a situation, a new sort of Reagan era, where he was, Ronald Reagan inherited a horrible economy and enacted the great American principles of lower taxing, cutting regulation, cutting government spending, doing the fiscally sound things that keep wealth in the private sector and therefore creates jobs by empowering the entrepreneur spirit. You know, Ronald Reagan did this stuff and was able to campaign on the slogan that it's morning in America again. You know, and Barack Obama, he's going on almost 4 years now, and he keeps saying, I just need more time. And that's BS. You know, he's had almost 4 years. Reagan did it. Obama could have done it, but he chose not to. And now I believe that Romney is going to do it.
You've said this election is about capitalism versus collectivism. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Jeffrey Lord had a great blog post commenting on when I said that to Soledad O'Brien. You know, there's two schools of philosophy here. One is capitalism, and again, I'm not talking about the crony capitalism that you see, you know, plaguing much of Eastern Europe. I'm talking about a true benevolent capitalism, or true benevolent free markets that honor and empower the individual. For example, in America, we abolished the slave trade, and we should never have sex trafficking and we should never legalize prostitution, because these things violate the human dignity of the person. But instead, we have a kind of free market that when you use your unique individual gifts, when you use your talents to create a better life for yourself, and when you work hard doing what you have been gifted to do, you uniquely have been gifted to do, that's how the entrepreneur spirit fuels a free market economy. Therefore, our tax codes, our fiscal policy, our monetary policy needs to reward and empower that, not punish it, which is what Barack Obama is doing. So that's the capitalism. Again, I want to qualify that as benevolent capitalism, authentic free markets, not crony capitalism. And then on the other hand, you have what Barack Obama is doing, talking about nationalizing private industry, talking about, you know, taxing the wealth, talking about the wealthy, talking about redistributing the wealth, you know, which is a philosophy that the collective whole is more important than the individual. And I don't believe that. And Soledad O'Brien this morning reacted very strongly, saying, you know, those words you're using, those phrases you're using, that's what was used in Cuba or something like that, you know. And I said, I didn't make the connection, you just did. You know, I'm not quoting Castro's Cuba. I'm quoting President Obama. And oh boy, she backed herself into a corner where she kept saying, you're using these communist phrases. And I said, I am quoting our president. You're the one making the connection to communism. And Jeffrey Lord just really had a great analysis of this morning's debate on CNN. He has that on American Spectator. So it was a lot of fun, because you watch the liberals try to deny what's going on, and it's as fun as this morning's debate was. It actually is kind of tragic, Kevin, because it's the reality of what's going on in this election cycle, and that's why we have to wake up young people.
Well, and you know these shows. I mean, one networker guy has a tingle up his leg, another guy wants to be tickled. I mean, it's just getting stranger and weirder and making things up. And I mean, you got to just love. I mean, here they think they're pulling a Castro thing out, and it's words Obama said. But look, when you don't have a record to stand on, you're grasping for things right now, trying to make things up about Romney, about conservatism. Will voters see through all this misrepresentations and distortions?
I sure hope so, because, you know, under Obama, gas prices have doubled, grocery prices have gone up, interest rates on our savings have plummeted. It's harder and harder just to, you know, I'm not even talking about live a life of luxury, just to make ends meet. It's gotten harder and harder. And I hope that voters wake up to this. I especially hope that the young voters wake up to this. And with Christine Pack, we're going to do everything we can, visit more college campuses, you know, try to produce some commercials reaching the young people, continue to hold festivals like we had here at the RNC, because these sound bites that you hear coming from Occupy Wall Street and coming from our president, you know, they sound noble, they sound good, you know, like what's wrong with the government taking care of its people? But the problem is history proves that behind these sound bites, there's centuries of failed economies that just show that these sound bites, the economic philosophy behind these sound bites, simply do not work, or simply does not work. And we've got to do everything we can to reach the voter and convince them that the American dream is worth fighting for, and convince them that the Republican Party and the platform of the Republican Party is the party that will fight to restore the American dream.
I think you may have touched on this a little bit, saying you don't have to agree with Governor Romney 100% to vote for a man of character. Everyone on the GOP side right now seems to be saying the right things post-convention. Is the party unified and ready to back Romney? Because as you know, perhaps better than anyone, the Republicans have had trouble in this area in the past. You know, the Democrats, that's one machine. They vote one way, you know, it's union mentality there. The GOP, well, especially when the surprise candidate wins like a Christine O'Donnell, like you did fair and square, you're often left high and dry by the sour grapes establishment. So is that not a concern here, since Romney is the party guy, or is there a worry that maybe there's still some work to do to court some conservatives and Tea Partiers?
Well, I hope so. I hope that they're going to get behind him, because, again, I genuinely think that some of the criticism from, you know, even my own supporters, some of the criticism towards Governor Romney was unfounded, because a lot of the policies that they criticized were put in place by the Democratic legislature, and yet when you ask the campaign, why doesn't he say that? And they just say it's not Governor Romney's character to blame others. You know, it happened under his watch, so he's gonna own up to it. And yet it's like, but it was the Democrats who put that in there, and you know, so I think that he has the character to do what is right. And the other thing that reveals a lot to me about his character is that when a lot of conservative leaders were not yet behind my campaign, and I'm talking about in February or March of 2010, when we were still an upstart, when we were desperately trying to get endorsements, you know, really going out there and trying to cast the vision that this very liberal Republican was beatable, Governor Romney personally called me up and encouraged me to keep going. He's like, look what just happened with Scott Brown. You're standing on your convictions. Your message is the right one for America. You know, so he reached out to me before any of the conservative politicians did, and he stood up for me and, you know, and talked to some donors, and his encouragement of me helped to sort of loosen some of the funding that we need to get that early start. So, you know, I genuinely believe that he's the right man for the job, and I sure hope that Republicans and especially conservatives will be united about this. You know, Kevin, it's sad to say, but sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot, and you know, and people like Rachel Maddow then are just sitting back watching us do their dirty work, and there's too much at stake. We've got to check our egos at the door, and we've got to make sure that Governor Romney wins. And then, you know, we can be as loud and noisy as we want afterwards, making sure that Governor Romney signs the kind of legislation that we want him to. But for now, we've got to be in one accord, a unified message that America is worth it.
And, of course, there's a way to do that, too, to keep Romney to the right. You know, Governor Palin has talked about all these great Senate and House candidates that if you get in, you know, Romney's not going to say no to a Republican bill. So if it's, you know, toward the right and a Tea Party message, you have that there. Governor Palin, of course, a supporter of yours in 2010 as well. Are there things Governor Palin has gone through that you can relate to better than most?
Oh, absolutely. When you've got the press digging through your trash, when you've got, you know, someone you once shared an elevator with on MSNBC as a Christine O'Donnell expert. I mean, it's certainly, a tactic that the left has used on whether it's Governor Palin, me, Governor Nikki Haley, Congresswoman Bachmann. You know, they try to beat us up, to push us back to the sidelines. And, you know, the harder they beat us, it might get discouraging sometimes, but then you shake it off, and what I do is I look at what the Founding Fathers had to go through, you know, and as hard as it is, and Kevin, I'm not saying it's ever easy to hear people get away with lying about you, with get away with saying things that are just absolutely ridiculous and contrary to who you are, when you've sacrificed so much, all for the cause, and yet people are still believing these lies. It is not easy, but it's certainly not like having to spend a brutal winter night, sleeping in the snow during Valley Forge. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing that what our founding fathers had to go through. So I am very grateful that we live in a time and that we live in now, and that while we have a great fight on our hands, what we have to sacrifice is just coming out of our comfort zone and being bold and having our character maligned once in a while. It's nothing like what the founding fathers had to.
It's a great way to look at it. Your book, which I really enjoyed, by the way, still going strong?
Yeah, it's called Troublemaker, and you can get it either at TeenPack or on Amazon. But we've gotten some great reviews, especially for young people. One gentleman read the book and then bought, I think, about 100 copies and gave them to his old fraternity or something like that, so that all the college kids would read it. So I was very honored by that because, as I said at the start of the interview, the young people are my passion. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from the young people that the chapters about why the government should be limited and why our Constitution was written the way it was has really helped them to understand our side of the story, so to speak. So it's an honor to hear it resonating so well with so many people.
And I think the title can bring young people in, too, because it is cool to go rogue or rabble-rouse as a conservative, as long as, you're an O'Donnell or a Palin or a Allen West, or, and I know you guys love that when you make the left go nuts. Christine O'Donnell, your website, or for you, sites, perhaps?
You can go to ChristinePack.com. That's spelled ChristinePack.com, ChristinePack.com. Because there are so many websites and so many projects that I'm involved with, but that's the main hub right now.
Sounds great. She is not a witch, and if she is indeed a troublemaker, it's in the best possible way. A good person and a patriot, and if that makes a troublemaker, sign me up. Thanks, Christine O'Donnell.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
ChristinePack.com for all things Christine O'Donnell. And also check out Christine on Facebook, but make sure you get to the right page. Plenty of fakes out there. Her Facebook page is facebook.com/supportChristine. And on Twitter, follow her at ChristineOD. Some big success for Governor Palin-backed candidates in Arizona. Congressman Jeff Flake won his GOP U.S. Senate primary race handily, and Dr. Paul Gosar scored a primary win, the congressman hoping for a return trip to the House. Both Palin-powered, and both could use your help. Check out jeffflake.com and gosar4congress.com for more information. You've heard Mia Love right here on the Palin Update and at the GOP convention. Now Governor Palin is offering Mayor Love some assistance, urging folks to support Mia's Love Bomb. Head to love4utah.com to find out how you can make a difference. She didn't speak at the convention, and then she even had some Fox appearances during the festivities in Tampa taken away. Instead of whining, Sarah Palin decided to keep working toward bettering our country. The governor issued a statement about the convention, calling it encouraging. She also called on all Americans to put political disagreements aside and remember our brave men and women in the armed forces. Check out the governor's full commentary on her Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at SarahNet Radio, and we are now on Facebook, so please like SarahNet Radio on Facebook. And don't forget, the Palin Update is now on demand, so just head to SarahNetRadio.net, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Visit SarahNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. I want to thank everyone here at SarahNet Radio. Thanks to Christine O'Donnell, and thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.